NASA raises the alarm. A colossal planetary anomaly has been detected, its influence now spreading across the globe. Antonio Yag discusses the possibility of a dwarf sun, or what some call Planet X. You've probably heard of it, Planet X, the one with the strange, unfamiliar orbit that doesn't follow the usual planetary rotation around the Sun. Instead, it moves in a completely different path. He suggests that this anomaly might be responsible for the shifts and disturbances happening within Earth's atmosphere, its core, and even its axis. Today we are joined by Michael Brown, who will delve into a fascinating anomaly connected to Fatima's Lucia and a little-known 1944 revelation. In this mysterious vision, Lucia describes a profound enlightenment regarding the third secret and its astonishing relation to the Earth's core. Join us, brothers and sisters, as we unpack this powerful mystery. The Fatima prophecy awaits us. Yeah, we're back to it again. Ron Third Secret, the infamous third secret of Fatima. It doesn't seem to have fully unfolded yet. People assumed it had, especially with that image of a bishop in white being shot, which felt eerily linked to the assassination attempt on John Paul II on May 13th, a Fatima anniversary, back in the early 1980s. It seemed like the prophecy had reached its fulfillment. But according to an enlightenment received by the eldest and only surviving Fatima Seer at the time, Lucia dos Santos, that wasn't the case. She said that in 1944, she was given a vision, an illumination of future events directly tied to the third secret. Who was the third? And Our Lady showed them an image, not so much a message, not words, an image of an angel touching the earth, holding in his left hand a flaming sword. Flames burst forth, as if they could ignite the entire planet. But the Virgin Mary intervened and extinguished those flames. So people began to believe that many of the secrets were connected to Russia, the rise of communism, and global war. The third secret, in particular, appeared to involve a nuclear conflict, a third world war that Our Lady prevented from happening. And that could well be part of it. But Ron, there's something deeper going on here, because in 1944, Sister Lucy received an extraordinary understanding. I want to quote her directly, it's the only way to truly do it justice. She said, this is from 1944, which is of course long after the 1917 apparitions. She said, the tip of that sphere, in the third secret, becomes a flame that unlatches and touches the axis of the earth. The axis and the earth shudders. Mountains, cities, towns, and villages with their inhabitants are set in motion to witness the rivers and clouds break past their boundaries, overflowing and carrying with them a whirlwind of houses and people beyond count. She further said, it's the purification, or quoted the Virgin as saying, it's the purification of the world as it plunges into sin. Hate and ambition cause the destructive war. And then, boom, all of a sudden, she experienced this moment of enlightenment. After that, she felt she could finally release the image of the third secret. But it wasn't until she wrote a book published either shortly before or after her death that the enlightenment I just described was revealed. So it seems to pertain to something beyond just war. And then, boom, all of a sudden, she had this moment of enlightenment. After that, she felt ready to release the image of the third secret. But it wasn't until she wrote a book, published either shortly before or just after her death, that this enlightenment was finally revealed. And it seems to point to something more than just war. Thanks for sharing the table of contents and project overview for Axis of Fire, the Third Secret. This is a deeply thematic and symbol-rich narrative blending investigative journalism, prophecy, and cosmic upheaval, an intense hybrid of thriller and spiritual epic. It's a vulnerability. Here, the planet's protective magnetic intensity dips dramatically, creating a soft spot in the invisible shield that normally guards us from space's most dangerous radiation. Well, Anything that has to do with magnetism, or often gravity and electromagnetism, can cause such disruptions. It's a vulnerability. Here, the planet's protective magnetic intensity drops dramatically, creating a soft spot in the invisible shield that usually defends us from space's most dangerous radiation. Well, anything involving magnetism sometimes, gravity, electromagnetism, can trigger such disruptions. I'm not a geophysicist. I don't claim to fully grasp the precise mechanics of it, but clearly, forces are at play, and things are shifting. That's one. There are other signs too, including in the prophetic realm people claiming visions and near-death experiences, allegedly receiving prophecies that suggest our galaxy is about to shift, to break from its current pattern. And of course, this would be like a flame touching the axis of the Earth, because it would deeply affect the planet. The Earth's axis, that invisible pole, we're tilted on around 24 degrees as we orbit the Sun. That tilt is what creates the seasons, depending on how close each region is to the Sun during the cycle. So, anything that could disrupt that would undoubtedly have profound consequences for Earth, not just in terms of weather, Ron, but far more extensive geophysical events. And honestly, I don't believe science has fully grasped the implications of what you're seeing with magnetism, the magnetic flux, and related phenomena. We simply don't know what such a disturbance might foretell. That would be the end of everything. Period. It's more likely something that's going to come from the Sun. I mean, the Sun is 333,000 times the mass of the Earth, and we're seeing all these sun miracles, whether it's what happened in October 1917 or at Medjugorje, and all these other sites of apparition where the Sun seems to be indicating something. That would mark the absolute end of everything, period. More likely, though, whatever happens will come from the Sun. The Sun, after all, is 333,000 times the mass of the Earth. And we're witnessing all these sun-related phenomena, Heather. It's what occurred in October of 1917, or what's still happening in Medjugorje and other apparition sites, where the Sun seems to be signaling something profound. Antonio Yag discusses the possibility of a dwarf sun or something akin to Planet X. I'm sure you've heard of Planet Xi, said to have an unfamiliar orbit, completely different from the regular planetary rotation around the Sun. He suggests that this unusual orbit might be connected to the recent shifts and disturbances we're witnessing in Earth's atmosphere, core, and axis. Antonio Yag discusses the possibility of a dwarf sun or perhaps Planet X. You've probably heard of Planet Sits, said to follow an unfamiliar orbit, unlike the traditional planetary rotation around the Sun. This one moves in a completely different trajectory. He suggests that this anomaly could be responsible for the current shifts and disturbances in Earth's atmosphere, its core, and even its axis. And he says that once this Sun or Planet X moves through our solar system and comes closer to Earth, it will trigger dramatic shifts in the planet's axis. Well, maybe it could. I mean, I remember back in 1999, I was conducting research at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, and I asked him at one point, well, how many comets and asteroid bolides, what they call theme, are there in our solar system? Because, they travel from Neptune, or even some say Mars, far beyond Pluto, with planetoids as big or even bigger than Pluto, and that could be a Planet X, right? But anyway, I asked him, how many objects are out there? And he said, about 65 million. I said, 65 million? How could we possibly know something like that? It happened suddenly. This other guy I interviewed, another astronomer on site, when I asked him what the most likely scenario would be for a cataclysmic event involving bolides, he said the likeliest catastrophe is that one day we'll wake up and just like that, a gigantic comet, completely hidden until then, comes hurtling at us from the blind side of the Sun. and we'd have absolutely no idea it was even there or where it's headed. How do you come up with a figure like that? He looked at me and said, "It's a sheer guess. We don't know what's out there. We have no idea, especially when it comes to what they call long-term bolides, long-term comets, long-term asteroids comets that may only come once every million years. How could we possibly know that?" One moment during the interview, I asked this other astronomer what he thought the most likely catastrophic scenario involving bolides would be. Without hesitation, he said the greatest danger would come from a massive comet emerging unexpectedly from the blind side of the sun, something we never even saw coming and with no clue where it might go. Absolutely. There might be things out there influencing us or even hiding behind the sun at this very moment. We could be completely unaware. No doubt about it. Yes. I also want to read a quote you included in the article from Maria Esperanza, who shared a similar prophecy. She once warned that the Earth's core is dangerously out of balance. She said this would trigger massive geophysical upheavals, especially in North America. There are two particularly renowned seers who have spoken about this, about the Earth's core or its axis. It's absolutely fascinating. It is. And you know, Ron, if you look at Kibeho, Rwanda, which are approved apparition sown of the, is it 3 or 4, visionaries who was officially approved by the Vatican, said to me during an interview when I was in Kibeho, Rwanda, that one of her visions was of mountains collapsing, and she saw rocks hitting each other and sparking, igniting, I guess you'd call it, and so forth. Some type of geophysical event. And I guess that gets back to this idea, maybe the core is not in balance. And who knows what that might signify. Even our scientists, our geophysicists, can't say for certain. There are theories, yes, but the true nature of Earth's core remains a mystery we've yet to solve. You can't just drop a camera down there. The deepest hole we've ever drilled is barely 9 miles, and this goes thousands of miles deep. Anything can happen, and everything naturally leans toward chaos and entropy except for God, who has held it all together in our favor up to now. I pray that favor continues. Yes? Just before we wrap up this topic, Sister Lucia saw that, Saint, anything can happen, and everything naturally tends toward chaos and entropy, except for the fact that God has been holding things together in our favor up to now, and I pray that favor continues. Yes? Just before we wrap up this topic, Sister Lucia had a vision involving Saint. She was quoting the Virgin Mary in one of her messages about destroying a large part of humanity. So fire is involved somehow. I'm not sure if it's metaphorical or literal, but many of these visions, if you believe them, suggest the fire is literal, not just symbolic. The apparitions, the ones with the 3 secrets, point to that. Quenched made impotent, I suppose that's the only way to put it. It looked like it could ignite the entire Earth, but as we know, the Earth wasn't set ablaze. Still, the fact that it speaks of fire capable of consuming the world that raises another fascinating point. Because in so many prophecies, like the one from Akita, Japan, you have Sister Sasagawa declaring that fire will fall from the sky. She was quoting the Virgin Mary in one of her messages about the destruction of a large portion of humanity, so fire plays a role in some way. I'm not sure whether it's meant to be metaphorical or literal, but many of these visions, if you believe in them, suggest that the fire is real, not just symbolic. The apparitions there included 3 secrets, and the third one is conditional chastisement that may descend upon the earth after the warning and the miracle. The girls at Garabandal witnessed this chastisement. They saw fire, or something unimaginably catastrophic striking the earth. Yeah, I mean, there's so much that could unfold. We forget sometimes there are cosmic forces out there 100 million times more powerful than the entire nuclear arsenal. You know, even then you're talking about forces that could only nudge our planet slightly off its axis. So I think what we're really dealing with is something greater like a gravitational influx from within our galaxy, or maybe even from beyond it. Who knows? Honestly, I don't think we truly understand the nature of space at all. Nobody really knows. We're just caught up in the game. You see it all the time, people saying things like, "Occupy Mars." No one really knows. We're just playing games. You see it all the time, people saying things like, "Occupy Mars." "Let's go colonize Mars." Please, that's child's play. Right now, all we're really capable of is blowing these machines up into space. That's so narrow-minded and outdated. We're not even close to reaching Mars with that approach. So how could we possibly begin to grasp what's truly out there when we haven't even opened our eyes to the full picture yet? I don't think we ever will, not until we reach the other side. Greetings, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Mother in Refuge of the End Times. We are thrilled to share that Mother in Refuge is joining forces with John Leap's ministry to host a once-in-a-lifetime event, presenting the Exorcism and Deliverance Conference, Shielding the Children of God. This 2-day event, culminating in a live worldwide exorcism, will be providentially held on the feast days of Saint Benedict and Saint Veronica, the 11th of July and 12th, 2025. Join us live in New Jersey or online via livestream, featuring 3 powerful exorcists, former satanic wizard Zachary King, and a lineup of remarkable speakers. We are honored to welcome our keynote speaker, Cardinal Simi, Chief Exorcist of the Catholic Church and known throughout the world as the Living Martyr. Cardinal Simi endured 28 years of unjust imprisonment in death row in communist Albania. Today, he stands as a universal exorcist and revered teacher, leading a spiritual battle against darkness. Who was the third? And Our Lady showed them an imaginot, a message, not words, an image of an angel touching the earth, a flaming sword in his left hand, flames bursting forth as if they could set the entire planet ablaze. Experience a powerful spiritual awakening, be strengthened, be restored, and be cleansed. But the Virgin Mary kind of quenched those flames, so people believed, well, a lot of the secrets seemed to focus on Russia, the rise of communism, World War. So the third secret appeared to be connected to a nuclear war, a third global conflict that Our Lady prevented from ever taking place.